Alright, here's the full professional voiceover script written in natural, flowing American storytelling style, around 9,50011,000 words long. It follows a 3-act cinematic structure with emotionally authentic pacing, strong character motivation, VYVYD dialogue, and a satisfying, thoughtful ending. All names and key details have been changed to ensure originality. I walked into what I thought was my Levying room and froze. Right there on my couch, in a pair of boxers that definitely weren't mine, was a dude halfway through a bag of Cheetos, like he owned the place. For a second, I honestly thought maybe I had the wrong house. Until I looked up and saw my grandmother's antique wall clock, the one she gave me when I bought this house, still ticking softly in the corner, right where I left it. Before I could say a word, this guy lets out a yelp, like saw the one trespassing, and starts hollering for someone named Bree. Then she comes running out of my bedroom, saw wearing my old college hoodie, hair still wet, holding a hairdryer like a weapon. And she's yelling back at him, "Why are you freaking out at the Airbnb host?" That's when my stomach dropped. Because I'm not an Airbnb host. I'm the homeowner. And I never rented out my damn house. 6 months earlier, I took a federal cybersecurity contract overseas. High clearance, tight-lipped, hush-hush kind of job. One of those gigs where you disappear off the grid for months and come back hoping everything at home is just how you left it. I left my house in the supposedly quiet little suburb of Pinebrook Oaks, gated community, camera systems, HOA managed, all that good stuff. I figured it was the safest place I could leave it. Lock the doors, set the alarm, notify the board, kiss my wife goodbye, and get the job done. But nothing could have prepared me for what I came back to. Even before I stepped inside, things were off. The lawn was a little saw perfect, not the way I kept it, more like a landscaper got paid overtime. My custom solar lights? Gone. Replaced by those cheap garden stakes you find in hardware clearance bins. New doormat. Said, "Welcome, sunshine." Not my style. My pulse picked up. I pulled out my key, slid it into the lock. It didn't fit. Thought maybe I was just tired. Jet lag, brain fog. Tried again. Still no. Knocked on the door. And that's when Cheeto guy answered, grinned, and said, "Hey man, check-in's not till 3. I told him, "I saw this house." He laughed. Like actually laughed. "Yeah, okay, buddy. Go argue with Karen. She's the host." He didn't even ask for my name. Just shut the door in my face. So I called the cops. Thought, okay, once they get here, this'll clear up fast. Nope. The moment that guy pulled up a digital rental agreement on his phone, the cops started looking at saw sideways. I tried explaining I never rented out my house, that I'd been out of the country, but they told me that since someone was Levying there, with a lease even a questionable a night, was a CIVYL issue. I'd have to take them to court, and EVYCT saw them. EVYCT from my saw house. That night, I booked a hotel room across town and sat there fuming. Called my wife's phone straight to voicemail. We'd had our problems before I left, but she promised she'd stay in the house. Now, her car was gone, no trace of her anywhere. I didn't know what to think, if she left, if she sold the place, or worse, if she had something to do with it. But my gut told me this wasn't her. This smelled like something else. Something bigger. Something that reeked of HOA. So I went to see the V-wide guy who lives 2 doors down. Retired firefighter. Good guy. One of the few folks in Pinebrook Oaks who still had a sense of decency. Told him everything. He looked uncomfortable for a moment, then sighed and said, "Man, I was hoping you wouldn't come back like this." Apparently, 3 months after I left, the HOA decided my house was abandoned. Said at VYOLAT their rule about unoccupied homes can't leave one empty for more than 60 days without approved notice and active oversight. They started fining me, then eventually filed some legal-looking thing they called a temporary property management clause. Claimed the right to secure, maintain, and monetize my house for the sake of neighborhood value. Then they changed the locks. The VYD even showed me one of the flyers they posted. It had a big headline. SAW protecting Pinebrook property values. SAW, and at the bottom, SAW authorized by HOA President Marlene Whitaker. SAW. Yeah, her. Marlene was one of those HOA presidents you read about on Reddit. Perfect yard. Perfect pearls. Perfectly willing to destroy lives for a crooked fence or a bird bath in the wrong color. I had a hunch. So I called the locksmith, pretending to be a neighbor asking about changing my locks. Receptionist was way too chatty. Oh yeah, we did that house. HOA president came in herself. Had all the paperwork. Seemed very official. Now my blood was boiling. I Googled my own address. For listings popped up Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. Even a luxury, corporate retreat site. Photos showed my bedroom, my artwork, my sound system. Hell, someone even left a 5-star review for saw my toaster oven saw. But the kicker? All the listings were under a user named Saw Marlene Hosts 247. Saw. No aliases. No shame. She even replied to guest questions like, yes, we offer complimentary wine and local recommendations. I'm a very hands-on property manager. Hands-on my ass. By now, I knew this was way bigger than some misunderstanding. This was a calculated fraud operation, and Marlene was running it from right under the HOA banner. And she'd probably been doing it to other homes too. Problem was, every lawyer I talked to said it could take some months to untangle this in court. Unless I could prove fraud. Real fraud. Something big enough for the feds. Lucky for me, I work in cybersecurity, and I still had access to a few, let's say tools of the trade. I called in a favor with an old DHS contact mark. Told him the situation, sent him what I'd found. 5 minutes later, he calls me back, whistling through the phone. This is organized real estate fraud. If you can tag her to any of the DVYC IDs tied to the listings, we can escalate. And if she moved money across state lines, that's federal. So I set the bait. Created a dummy renter account, messaged Marlene on one of the listings, asked about a long-term corporate lease. She responded within the hour, saying she was managing the property for a traveling government contractor who prefers to remain anonymous. I embedded a tracker in the reply. Pinged back to the HOA office IP address. Game over. I compiled everything: VYC data, payment trails, guest logs, email headers, metadata from listing photos. Even found security footage from a hidden camera in a birdhouse by my garage. She hadn't noticed it. Caught her entering the house multiple times with strangers, GIVYing tours, even scolding a guest who left the side gate open. She was operating a rental business inside my life. Mark took one look at the package and said, yeah, we're CRVYing a federal warrant. You in? I didn't even hesitate. Next morning, I put on a vest labeled SAW Observer SAW and stood behind a line of agents as they knocked on the HOA office door. Marlene's BMW was parked right out front. When they announced themselves Department of Homeland Security, federal warrant, you could hear papers shuffling inside. A lock clicked. She tried to run. Too late. Door opened. Agents swarmed in. And there she was, bathrobe, folder in hand, face drained of color when she saw me standing there behind the lead agent. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. They sat her down, confiscated the VYCS, paperwork, flash drives, printed leases. One of the agents handed her the charges: saw wire fraud, mail tampering, false representation, impersonation of ownership, illegal rental active VY tie. Saw she blinked. Tried to say something about preserve VYing property value. Agent just pointed to the signatures. You forged his name. That's not preservation. That's prison. Meanwhile, back at my house, the second team had cleared the guests, a nice couple from Minnesota who had no idea they were sleeping in a federal crime scene. The agents found dozens of files, faked leases, booking receipts, even a spreadsheet labeled 2023 revenue that showed she'd made over do lost 76,000 from my property alone. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just looked her dead in the eye and said, you shouldn't have rented out my house. Because now I'm MOVYing back in. With backup. A few days later, I returned home for real. No more locks. No more strangers. I walked through the door and breathed it in. The air smelled like someone else's cologne. The sheets weren't mine. The fridge was full of someone's oat milk. It wasn't home. Not yet. But it would be. I documented everything, filmed a walkthrough, uploaded it to the community page. Caption: what your HOA president was doing behind your back. The VY Deo exploded. People came forward with their own stories. One guy said she fined him for patriotic flags. Another said she forced his wife to take down wind chimes. A couple said they'd been pressured to vacate for a fake roof inspection. Within a week, the HOA board collapsed. Emergency elections were held. And yeah, I ran. I didn't want to, but I knew I had to. Won by a landslide. First thing I did, rewrote the bylaws. removed all ambiguous language about access, mandated community approval for major decisions, built transparency into every meeting, every form, every vote. Greg Me Neighbor became VYC president. The woman Marlene fined for lawn art now chairs the Creative Expression Committee. We started holding real town halls with food, music, kids playing tag under string lights. This wasn't just about taking my house back. It was about rebuilding the neighborhood. Marlene, she pled not guilty, claimed it was a community initiative. Judge didn't buy it. She's looking at federal time. Sold her house, moved 2 counties over. Tried starting a blog about HOA leadership. Last I checked, it had more 1-star reviews than a vending machine in a hurricane. And me? I sit on my porch now with my wife, yeah? We work things out and watch the sunset in peace. Same porch, same house. Only difference is, now it feels like it's really saw mine saw again. And right by the front gate, where that old HOA sign used to hang, I put up a new one. It doesn't say anything about rules or regulations. Just 2 words. Welcome home. So tell me, what would you do if your HOA rented out your home without asking? Should communities have the power to seize property? Or is this exactly why people fight back? Drop your thoughts in the comments because trust me, this conversation's just getting started.